Hello and welcome to Supernaturally Suspicious Podcast. This is episode 4. My name is Amber and I am here with,
Thank you.
and today Nikki has a story for us. What's it about?
I do. So it's kind of a personal story, so to speak. So I don't remember the experience. However, It is based off my family and family friends in Dryden, Michigan, my home state, where I currently reside. Just put that out there. So now this is basically, there's no research involved outside of what year the home was built.
Right.
And all that. However, my parents, they were, for whatever reason, really big into Civil War reenactments.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a ton of them within our state. I don't know where the correlation with Michigan and the Civil War really is outside of the fact that we're the North.
Right.
So my family, we knew this family. I'm not sure how we knew this family. My stepfather was a gunsmith, and he owned a hunting store, so to speak, I guess.
Okay.
And he also taught hunting classes. He was an avid hunter. He would go out. So this family that we knew, they lived out in Dryden, Michigan. And that's about an hour north of Detroit.
Okay.
And it's mostly farmland. A farm that was built in 1885.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's a nice little old farm.
Right.
Now, from what I remember, it was your typical farm. You know, there was barns and chickens and a family that lived there. I don't know what else to call it. Like, so basically, all I remember is a chicken farm and small little things, but they had chickens. I remember doing Easter egg hunts and all that. Now, these memories are based off of what my sister, the most logical person I know, has told me. No, she doesn't have a belief system or anything along them lines. However, she 100% believes in everything that she's witnessed there at this house.
You said the house was built in 1886?
1885.
85.
85.
Okay.
So it's a nice old farmhouse, and it actually had a cemetery, a family cemetery, built alongside of it.
Well, but they did that though back in those days.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
And especially like in the farmlands and stuff, they would bury their family on the land.
On the land, and it was generations and
Yeah.
So from what my sister has told me is that from what she remembers, mind you, I was extremely young. I was 4, 5, 6 during these times. My mom married my stepdad.
Okay.
In 1990. And they were friends with this family before that and thereafter. They were in their wedding, and I remember them being incredibly close to this family. From what my sister tells me is she remembers being in the kitchen of this old farmhouse and a gun, like a shotgun, because they were avid hunters.
Right.
That's what our families did together. They were hunting buddies. They did deers, they did fishing, they did bears, they did what was legally okay to do.
Right.
And my stepdad, he was a gun safety teacher. So he was extra by the books.
Right.
And Fred, he was actually a leatherman. So he, did leather type stuff.
He did leather type stuff.
I don't know what to call it.
I don't know what they call it either.
He was
but,
a leatherman. So
yeah.
he did chaps and anything leather based,
Like jackets and stuff.
jackets and holsters and
Right.
all of the above. Like that's what Fred did. Well, my stepfather was the gunsman.
Mm-hmm.
So from what my sister remembers is one day we went out to the farm because again, they were very close. So we spent a ton of time out there.
Right.
So from what she remembers is we were in the kitchen and up against the fridge laid a shotgun, like a rifle, like a hunting gun, whatever.
Right.
And from what my sister remembers is it slid out and dropped in front of the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
And she remembers the wife of the house, the owner, saying, "Fucking stop. You're scaring the fucking kids." And she was like waving a spatula around. I don't even know.
So it was like she already knew what was going on, but
already knew
nobody
what
else
was
knew.
happening.
Right.
Yeah, no, but she didn't want the kids, the younger ones of the household, to know what was happening.
Right.
So she's waving her spatula around, saying, "Fucking stop! You're scaring the kids." Da 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 da. And for my sister, that scared her more than the gun falling itself because
things fall over.
things fall over. But the fact that it slid out because it was laid up against the side of the fridge.
Right.
So
in that sense, was it so the butt of the gun was on the ground and the barrel was against the fridge?
Yeah.
And so when you say did it slid out, does she mean like it slid, like while it's on its butt, slid out and then fell over?
It from the way that she describes it, it was like a floating type thing.
Okay.
That it lifted itself up and then it went in front of the fridge and fell over.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah. And so my sister, let me explain. She is the most sensible person that I know. She's like me. She questions a lot of things. But for the fact that this is her experience and she witnessed this, now mind you, I was so young. I remember hearing stories about it,
Mm-hmm.
but I think hearing it, my mom, she had tons of stories to tell.
Right.
That was her life. That's what she believed in. But my sister, being as sensible as she was, for her to say, "This is what happened." There's no doubt in my mind that this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
That hit me.
Right. Because she's seen it.
Because she's seen it. And the fact that she's...
But that's the thing. But that's the thing about, I think, the paranormal in general
Mhm.
is I understand why a lot of people don't believe, and a lot of stuff you can explain, if you really try to.
I try to rationalize everything. However, I'm not very rational at the same time.
Right.
So the fact that she rationalizes it as a haunting,
Right.
it
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 puts it in
kind of
like a
strikes,
different.
it puts it in a different perspective,
Right.
because she's gone through a ton in her life. She doesn't necessarily believe in heaven and hell, and those are her beliefs, and I respect that. It is what it is.
Right.
But she believes 100% that this is what had happened.
So, does she ever experience anything else there?
Oh yeah. So another story. We were doing, while our dads were out hunting,
Mm-hmm.
we were in the spare bedrooms, and she remembers, we were in the bedrooms, and she remembers hearing a party of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she heard music, she heard tons of chattering, people talking, and all of this on the other side of the door. And when she opened the door, there was absolutely nothing there. And she opened the door in fear. It
Right.
wasn't curiosity, it was fear. She was running to her mom. She was like, nope, I don't want nothing to do with this. And I get it, because that's a terrifying situation when, you're in a bedroom of a family that's close to your family. You're
Right.
sharing a bedroom with somebody you're close to, and you hear this chattering, this music, this party going on the outside, on the other side of the room.
Right.
And then you open the door and there's nothing, absolutely nothing there. Pitch black, pitch silent,
So it was like in the
nothing.
middle of the night.
Yeah, it was like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
So that like woke her up then, like hearing the music and the party.
Well, so she was, from the way that she says it, it seems that she was already awake.
Okay.
And she was already awake, and she had heard this, and she had gotten scared, or maybe it wasn't even a scared thing. It was like, what the hell is going on?
Right.
And because our parents at that time, they didn't party. They
Mm-hmm.
they went hunting, they did their farm work, they did whatever.
Right.
And I know that's weird coming from me, that they did their farm work, because I don't do the woods, I don't do farms, I do city life. I'm not for the extra bullshit. But again, she's the most sensible person. And she says she hears a party going on in the next room that she's in. And then when she opens the door, there's absolutely nothing. It's pitch black. It's mute.
Right.
There's not a sound, not a light, not a nothing. And
Yeah, no, I
so,
think that would scare me, like being a kid.
and
I mean,
and that scared her.
that would scare me even now. Like if I was sleeping in my house and I heard a party going on somewhere and it's just me and my husband there, I'd be like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I know, it's what you can imagine. A party being, glasses clinking together, people
Right.
talking, music in the background. However, excuse me, it was old. It was like not a record player. What was before a record player? It was
Before a record player?
with the big cone and all that. I'm gonna sound real
I mean, it's kind of like a record player, but I know what you're talking about.
There's like there's a name for it. I can't
Yeah,
think of
I
it
know,
right
and
now.
I don't know what it is.
But that's almost what she remembered.
So it was like an
hearing.
old timey thing.
Yeah. And so from what I remember of this house, now mind you, I was 4, 5, 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I was incredibly young, and for I remember the layout of the house. I remember the layout of the land. I remember there were stories about the second story of the house
Mm-hmm.
is to the children that lived there, they had bedrooms up there. However, from what I remember is that they said the kids don't sleep upstairs anymore. The ghosts are bad. That's all I remember. Now,
Yeah,
I
that
don't remember having any experiences. However, I remember the stories, even then,
right.
of
Of like what was going on.
what was going on. I remember my mom telling me about the story of the shotgun as well.
Mm-hmm.
Sliding out from the fridge, and Cindy with her spatula yelling,
Right. That
"Fucking
they're
stop!" Like I remember hearing
So
stories of this.
do you know if they still live in the house?
They do not.
Okay.
From what I could find, and I recently spoke to the oldest daughter,
Mm-hmm.
um, which was very nice, family friends and whatnot. From what I know, they sold the property in 1995.
Okay.
However, up until 1995, until the beginning of that farm, hundreds of years,
Mm.
that was a family farm. And the house was actually built in 1885.
Right.
18, not 19.
Yeah, I know that. Well, the house
And
that we bought here, this
mhm.
house was built in 1886.
Oh,
So it's an
so
old house.
from experience of the story that I'm telling you, um, in 1885, they had a family burial plot
Mm-hmm.
on the other side of the house. So you might want to look into your public records. This one in particular, I couldn't find too many public records because it was so family owned.
Right.
I do have memories, and I do have memories of my family. I don't have personal experiences there. And maybe it's just because I was so fucking young, and I would feel like some spirits would not want to scare young people. But I
Yeah.
remember stories, and I remember there was a cemetery, the family cemetery, on the other side of the house, and one of their barns, we were actually told. I remember being scared
Right.
of that particular barn. Now the barn, um, it was very old, and that's the front of the barn. It had like a cross carved out. You know how like barns have like windows?
Right.
Well, this window was like a cross.
That's kind of weird.
And I remember my mom saying she thought it might have been a church.
Okay. I
But
mean, it
again,
very well
this
could have
farm
been.
was built in 1885.
Right. It very well could have been like back in the day.
You fucking never know.
Right.
Um.
Hey, the old house that we used to live in when we were kids in Tennessee,
Mhm.
the people that bought it after we moved out actually turned it into a church, like a small church. So I wouldn't put it past that the barn at some point was a church.
That's what I kind of feel like, because the city, even now in 2022,
Hmm.
it's a small city.
Right.
It's a teeny tiny city. Everybody knows everybody. Even then, like, again, I was so young
Right.
going there, but I do remember certain things, and like one story in particular. I can't remember whether our car, it was like not starting because of mechanical issues or if it was stuck in the mud.
It was a ghost.
It was so yes and no. So I remember them trying to move our car, start our car, whatever.
Hmm.
And my mom yelling out, "What is so fucking funny? Nothing is fucking funny." And the owner, whose family had owned the property
Hmm.
for centuries, was like, "Lori, what are you talking about? Who are you talking to?" And she said, "The old man sitting on the tractor." He's like, "What do you mean there's nobody sitting on the tractor?" She said, "No, no, no. There's a man on the tractor."
Hmm.
And he was like, "Well, what does he look like?" And she described him, man in overalls and a straw hat and the typical
Right.
what you would think. And he was like, "Lori, that's my dad." She was like, "Well, he's fucking laughing at us. And I don't find anything funny." And he was like, "No, that's just him." But again, there's a family burial plot on
Right.
the other side of the house. So for her, it was just somebody laughing at him, and for him, it was like, "That's my dad."
And his dad was deceased.
His dad had been deceased,
Yeah.
forever ago.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's crazy.
from this house, I remember things such as like Easter egg hunts, and
Hmm.
they'd put the eggs from their chickens. I remember dyeing the chicken eggs
Right.
for these Easter egg hunts. And I remember where they would hide them. And I remember being scared. I was terrified of this barn. Like, I didn't want nothing of it. And, like, well, yeah, we can, like, well, yeah, raccoons and opossums and foxes and whatever.
Right.
And
Yeah, but
deer, even.
it's different when like you have like that primal fear.
But I was scared, like not and let's be honest, I'm scared of wild animals. So I'll do dogs, I'll do cats,
Right.
I'll do a raging pit bull, but I'm not doing wild animals. So something had scared me, and I can't remember why or what. I was just terrified of this barn. And the barn, oddly enough, I was surprised to find out that this barn was still standing.
Like now?
Like now.
Oh.
Like I Google Earthed it. I think me and my sister, I think I want to try to get her and I to go out to this farm
I was
of
gonna
what
say,
we
you should
remember.
get a hold of the new family that lives there and be like, hey, can we stay the night in your barn?
Wait a minute, pause, stop. I'm not saying the night in the barn. You can. I am not. we already established I don't do the wild.
Well, you're gonna eventually.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Oh, no, because we were talking about it the other night with our husbands.
Mm-hmm.
But so this family, they are very dear to my heart. They were they're a very big part of my upbringing, and I love them,
Right.
as much as I could. And from what I remember stories, and I remember stories of like, the farmhouse was actually pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I remember is that the children, there was three of them. There were three children. I'm not going to say their names, but they all had bedrooms on the second story. Now, I remember as 4 or 5, 6 years old being told, like, we don't go up there.
Right.
The ghosts are not friendly. The ghosts are mean. They scare each other. And recently, talking to my sister about it, she told me like she remembers being upstairs on the second floor. She had heard a ton of noises coming out from the hallways, and she used to yell. Her and the oldest daughter of the family, they used to yell at the boys of both families, my brothers and their sons,
Right.
to stop fucking making noise. And then they got in trouble because it wasn't, in fact, the boys that were making sounds. But she is God. So she is a very logical person.
Mm-hmm.
And she is very level-headed. And she doesn't sway one way or another when it comes to religion, whether it's believing in God or believing in hell. She's just like, life is what it is, and I hope that it's not a black abyss
Right.
when we pass away. Like that's more or less where she stands. But the fact to me that she has had these experiences, and she, without a question, without a doubt, will tell you word for word her experiences without believing in
Right.
God or Satan or whatever.
Yeah, but it's because she witnessed something.
She has seen something. And like I said, she's the most logical person I know.
Right.
She witnesses and she experienced it. And maybe spirits can show you who they are
Well, I
to
believe
make you a
that.
believer.
But that's what I believe.
You believe that they do?
Yeah. I mean,
Without a doubt.
the experiences that I've had,
Mhm.
95% of the time, I know who it is.
Who?
It's the other 5% that scares the shit out of me. Usually it's like a relative. Usually it's like my mom or some, like when my uncle passed away, like he sat on the edge of the bed as I was sleeping, woke me up and told me to make sure that, because he died of a brain aneurysm.
Okay.
So nobody
That's what
knew.
my stepfather died of.
Yeah. So obviously nobody knew it was going to happen.
Right.
But he, like, I was in the middle of like going to sleep and I felt something sit on the end of my bed.
So
And I looked, and I could. It wasn't like him as a person. It was just like this white, kind of like see-through thing, but I could tell
Like
it
a
was him.
mist or
I don't want to say it was a mist because it wasn't, because people automatically their minds would go to like a foggy cemetery or something,
sure.
but it was more like a transparent, just white figure. And I knew, like, I could see his mouth moving, like he was trying to tell me something.
That feels terrifying.
But it wasn't, though, because I knew who he was. And then,
So it's a sense of calmness.
right, yeah, no, I was very calm throughout the whole, like, to the point to where after he sat there a while, and and then he literally just disappeared. The indention from the bed came back up, like somebody stood up from the bed.
No, friend.
I
I'm
literally
not okay with that.
I just laid back down, and like it took me a minute to fall, but
I'm
I fell
fine with
asleep.
that.
But then I had a dream about him, and he said, "Tell my children that I love them very much."
Oh.
And that was it.
So, okay. Oh, God, you pulled at my heartstrings. Because listen, so as far as like aspirations, I'm not saying that right.
Apparitions.
Apparitions. I feel like I can explain that away and like blow it off like it is what it is. But when you tell me things like make sure my family's okay, or this is
Right.
fine, or this is that, that's when it fucks it up for me. Stop that shit.
Well, my sister called me the other day and said she just had a dream about because our grandfather he passed away, I think, in 2015 or something. And she called me and she was like, "Hey, I just want to let you know I had a dream about Grandpa." And I was like, "Oh yeah." I was like, "Did you wake up crying?" She goes, "No, I felt very at peace. He came to me and he sat down and he was just like, 'I really miss hanging out with you.'"
Also, let me tell you about my dream after my mother had passed away.
Mhm.
So, my mother passed away, and it wasn't very like mysterious circumstances. Like she had a long history of medical issues.
Right.
So, she had passed away, and can I tell you what is putting out that call as a somebody who is a and I'm more familiar with these terms than you are,
Mhm.
but as somebody who is a DOA, which is also is a dead on arrival,
Right.
Somebody who is already clearly passed
Gone.
away.
Right.
And, I'm CPR certified. I was a home health aide at the time that she had actually passed.
Mhm.
So, God, this is terrible saying it. So my mother had passed away and I was at work.
Right.
And at the time I was waitressing at a family diner type establishment.
Mhm.
And so my kids called. Worst fucking nightmare. My phone was dead.
Oh no.
So when I realized my phone was dead, I plugged it into the charger, and once I had enough juice to turn it on and whatnot, my oldest daughter called me, or I had a voicemail from
Mhm.
my oldest daughter, who at the time was 14, 15,
Yeah.
telling me that her grandmother, my mother, was not breathing. And so I threw, because at this restaurant we had headsets.
Mhm.
So I threw the headset off, and I remember throwing my tablet to take orders on and everything. My
Right.
manager asking like, "Nikki, what the fuck are you doing?" And I was like, I gotta fucking go. My mom is dead.
Right.
So I remember going home, and I was speeding through, and I would call to my best friend. I didn't call 911. I called to my best friend and was like, I think my mom's dead. I think my mom's dead. And she was like, Nikki, what the fuck are you doing? Call 911. I was like, I don't know for sure. Like, maybe they're over exaggerating. I think that's what I was hoping for.
Right.
Is that they were over exaggerating and that she wasn't dead. She had sugar problems. She had breathing problems. She had heart problems. She had every fucking problem you could think of.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, like, they got it wrong. They got it wrong. They got it wrong. So I get to the house. I get home, and she is clearly dead.
Right.
She was cold. Her lips were blue. She had 0 pulse. So I call 911 and they're like, do you want to start CPR? And I was like, there's no CPR.
Right.
She's gone. And so they were like, okay, well, how do you know? And I told them, I was trained to take pulses. She has no pulse. Her lips are blue. She is cold.
Right.
She is gone. And they sent an ambulance out. And now that I know, because now I work for an ambulance company,
Mm-hmm.
they handled it completely wrong. They looked at me and they said, she's in rigor, which means she's
Right.
in rigor mortis. So, I felt like shit. I felt like I failed.
Right.
I wasn't there. My kids were there. My kids were seeing this.
Right.
So, after the ambulance came, me and my kids, we sat outside waiting for the medical examiner to show up. He was like, we're not even going to do an autopsy or anything like that. Like, she's got an extensive history. We're just going to put it as natural causes. And I'm like, I got kids. I want to know what it was so I can know
Right.
for their records. No, none of that happened. But so a few nights later, I had a dream. And oddly enough, it is about my husband. And we were not together at this time. Let me tell you, we were friends at this time. So within this dream, my mom's son, who biologically sure is my brother, he called me and he was like, and this is a dream, mind you.
Right.
So he calls me and he says, Mom's dead. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? And he's like, Mom's dead. Get your firefighter boyfriend over here. Your mom's dead. And I'm like, what? So for whatever reason, I had like a hot pink fire suit on.
Uh-huh.
And we were going in. And so I go in and my mom's sitting at a table and she's laughing. And I'm like, what the hell are you laughing for? And she's like, I'm not dead. I'm okay. And I'm like, no. And I looked at my brother, my mom's son.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yo, you said she was dead. What the fuck is happening? He's like, talk to her. So I'm like, Mom, what the fuck is happening, my guy? This don't make sense. She's like, no, I'm not dead. I'm very alive and I'm with Pat. And that is when my heart, without a thought in my brain, my heart took peace with her death.
So she says she was with Pat?
She was with Pat, which was actually my stepfather. And
Gotcha.
so the way that the way that I feel is, so Pat, I was a teenager. He had gotten into an accident at work where he slipped onto some ice,
Mhm.
and his appendix burst,
Okay.
and he couldn't work anymore for it. Like, they sewed up his belly button. I remember calling him an alien and all this and that, and I was like, no, you're not a fucking human. Even at 13, 14 years old, I'm like, this don't make sense, my guy. But
Well,
that's
see, but I think that
he ended up having 2 belly buttons, just so you know.
but I think that's the way some of our loved ones come across to us, though, because I feel like if your mom showed up like my uncle did, I think she would think that that would freak you out.
So,
Or you would try to like explain it away. You know what I mean?
so I think my mom, she thought I would explain it away, so she brought it to me in a dream.
Right. And
Because
I honestly think that they can do that.
and I think she 100% knows who I am as a person.
Mhm.
So she knows I'm going to try to explain it away. Like, no, this didn't happen.
Right.
But so, like, I feel like within my dream, she visited me, which is not to be confused with a haunting.
Right.
I don't feel like she haunted me.
No, she just came to see you.
I think she just came to tell me that she was okay.
Yeah. And that's all that matters, though.
I think so. And so she was a very funny person, I guess you would say. Like, she was funny but not funny.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, stop it, what are you doing? This ain't funny. Type person. But I think when she passed away, and the way that she brought me and my current husband in together, because we were just friends at this time. We were not together. We were not thinking. I was hung up on my ex and he was hung
Right.
up on his ex. Like, we just, it's
Like she just
funny.
already knew.
Well, no, she absolutely knew, because I remember her asking him, like, let me tell you, she asked this motherfucker, when are you going to make an honest woman of my daughter? Like, what?
Surprise.
I is. But, like, he wasn't ready to settle down at the time, and I was not either.
Right. Well, I think everything happens for a reason.
And she knew.
Is that
I
going to
believe
conclude
without
the
a doubt.
stories?
But that story from Dryden, Michigan,
Mhm.
that it maybe because it's so personal to me,
Right.
because my family experienced it. I don't remember
Well, if you do
experiencing
end
it.
up talking to the people that did live there before and get any additional information, we can
So,
definitely do like a to be continued.
oh no, that's gonna happen because, surprise, I got a hold of one of the residents, and she is willing to talk
Nice.
about her experiences. And she is just ecstatic to talk to me as I am to talk to her. I really want to know why I really stopped talking.
You might hear a lot of noise in the background here. Willow's trying to make a bed for herself.
No, that's fine. I'm sure you can hear Marty in the background. She's trying to also make a bed for herself.
She already knows what time it is. The lights are about to go off and we're about to start streaming.
So, this family, I can't remember anything negative to say about them.
Mm.
You know, outside of their haunted farm. And those
that's like the only negative thing.
That's the only negative thing. But those experiences aren't even in my experiences. And
Well,
maybe I was just too young.
they
Maybe I was
moved.
too naive.
At least they moved and didn't stay there, though.
No, they moved to a whole nother state. But I've recently gotten in contact with one of the children, and they remember us as much as we remember them. So
that's awesome, though.
There may be more to this story, but that's what I got for now. You know, guns sliding out from the fridge and haunted barns. I can't remember what it was about this barn, but I remember being terrified of it.
Right.
And I remember the second story to this home. We were all terrified of it.
Right. Well, when you learn more, what we'll do is do basically like a be continued on this story. And when you do talk to her, and
oh yes,
then we'll just get some more stories from her, and then if people do want to email us their personal stories, we'll just put a little thing together and release it as an episode.
So I think personal stories, I feel like we would have a much better time with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I love.
You know, I have a bunch of personal stories. I'll even tell the personal story of why I believe to begin with.
I am waiting for you to tell your stories because I want to deep dive into that shit. Motherfucker, I got questions. I've got questions. I want to know shit. Because again, like, you're talking to somebody who I haven't had, from what I can remember. Now, I know of stories that has been told to me. Right. From my mom, my sister, my stepfather, my brothers, whatever.
But you've never had like a personal experience.
And if I have, I've explained it away.
Right.
Because in my mind, that's what makes sense. In my mind, that's enough to keep me sane. If I can explain it. Oh, because listen, Sam, you laugh, but you're talking about.
Well, it's not gonna like drive you crazy.
Yes, it fucking absolutely will. Do you not know my obsessive behaviors?
I think if you actually ever seen something, you would be so intrigued by it.
I will piss my pants.
No. I don't think you would. I think you would be so intrigued by it, you would want it to happen again just to see it again.
Just to test it?
Yeah.
Like, no, you didn't have it the first time. Let's see if you make an appearance the second time.
Mm-hmm.
That'd probably be me. You're not lying. What's funny is I'm looking at my deck of tarot cards right now as we're speaking. So, like, I'm intrigued. I'm curious because, again, I've had experiences from what I can remember, but I can explain them away. Like,
well, maybe.
I was stressed, so I was imagining shit, or I have ADHD, or
maybe if we start hanging out and actually go ghost hunting, you'll see something and then you'll actually believe.
Fine, but we're not going camping.
Well,
No.
we'll talk about it.
I'm gonna go with no. Like a hotel.
We'll talk about it.
Okay. But like what I don't do is like forest, bugs, and rocks. I don't do those things.
Well, we'll talk about it.
We talked about it a little bit the other night, and apparently both our husbands are on board. I'm the only one that's like, no.
Uh-huh.
Fuck you.
All right, guys. I think this is where we're going to end this episode.
If you have any questions, we might have answers later.
I hope everybody enjoyed this podcast. Again, you can reach out to us at supernaturallysus@gmail.com. If you want to give us your personal stories, we'll just add them on to the podcast with some other personal ones, hopefully.
Let us know. And I'm almost sure there's going to be more to this particular story about the haunting in Dryden, Michigan.
Yes.
Which is where I'm from. I'm from Michigan. So.
Yep, we'll have to wait and see what you get since you just started talking to them again.
I just started talking to the owners of the farm, the previous owners of the farm.
Right.
And I'm sure I'll have more stuff to sell. We might even have a guest appearance.
That would be neat.
I think that would be fun.
All right, everybody. Have a good night, and thank you for watching.
Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.